Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Namita, your host for today. I'm from Eisenbridge. So, on the behalf of Eisenbridge and Discuss Agile community, I would like to welcome you all to this webinar. The topic of this webinar, as you know, how to develop appetite for learning. So, Dr. Poonam Jindal, who is herself professor in VGIM Hyderabad and honorary secretary IBTDS Hyderabad chapter. So she is going to facilitate this webinar. So without taking much time, let's get over to Dr. Poonam. Poonam, let's start the session now.
Yeah, thank you, Namita. Thanks for the introduction. Before starting, I think most of the participants I see here are my students. I can see that, and they know me very well. So there is no such requirement of my introduction, but still, thank you, Namita, for introducing me. My association with learning and development is actually started in 2006 when when I decided to take a diploma in learning and development from Indian Society for Training and Development. So that is called ISTD. So since then I started working for learning and development area. Yeah, I'm a professor with Vignan Jyoti Institute of Management, where I'm teaching learning and development as a course as well. And because I have passion in this field, I want to learn more and more. So from there, the idea came that why shouldn't I talk about that, how everybody should keep this zeal on in terms of learning something new. And especially if you see the current situation, things are not in place, things are not in shape. In that situation, how people should be encouraged to keep that zeal on. And rather, I have used the word here as appetite. I will share the PPT here. So before starting, I'll just take few minutes to talk about why the appetite word I have used here for this presentation today or for this webinar today. So one thing is my interest in food, and I'm not a foodie. So my interest is in health and food, and which all the time encourage me to see that how the food should be related with all other activities you do in your life, how you become healthier by eating right. And appetite is very important aspect of being healthy with the food. So that's where I thought, let me use this word here as well. And why I'm talking about it, that what is happening nowadays. And let me start with our digestive system. What happens actually, our digestive system is something like that we should eat fruits, vegetables, grains at different timings to digest all those. So if we eat all those together, the digestive system gets disturbed, and then the benefit of all these three you don't get for your health. I think somewhere the same thing is happening with the learning world as well. So there are so many platforms available. We have online learning platforms, we have classroom learning platforms, we have the social media available to learn. But so many things together, the mind gets confused, the appetite for food for learning, food for information get disturbed. So the right way of using this information which we are getting from so many different sources is important. As the right food is important for health, same way, if you want to learn more, the right platform at the right time is required to be taken. So that's why this word appetite came into the mind, and then I developed this title. So Namita has already introduced me. So we can take just a minute to just go through my profile. All of you want to see that. Yep. So what this picture is showing, what this picture is trying to say to all of us. All of you can leave your comments in the chat board. You can check that time to time. So if we see human brain is curious by nature, what does it mean? It means that even if you see the small kids, whenever something new comes, whenever they get to know about something, they want to know more and more about that. And I think the best example is the current scenario. We can see that how all of us are, so hunger to learn, interest to learn. So how all of us right now are concentrating on one thing, that is coronavirus. So any kind of information available anywhere, we are just trying to read about it. We are just trying to get more and more information about it. Interest can be different. Somebody is trying to find out where it has come from. China is the reason for this, or there are many conspiracy theories. So some are trying to understand about that. Others might be focusing on that what can be the solutions for this. But all of us continuously are trying to dig more and more information about this. And this is what keeps your hunger for learning alive. We always, topics can be different as per the scenarios, as per the situations, but we are always looking for more and more information. So as being human brains, we cannot sit quiet. I think we are always trying to look for more. Then what happens? Then why this appetite gets disturbed? So of course, next 1 hour we are going to talk about that. So before starting this, and as we have our curious minds, I think every year everyone tries to find out that what are the current required competencies, or what are the competencies will be required in near future. We all have this question, and we all do this research every year. So let's have some comments about it. Fine, I open it for all of you. This list, the participants can give what do they think about the competencies required in future, near future. I'll take few when I get response from all of you. Yes, panelists? All the participants can write about the competencies they feel those are required in future. I'm waiting for your response. Okay, AI, machine learning. Yes, any more? Competencies required in near future. We all read about it time to time. Digital learning. Any more? Okay, data analysis, leadership. Adaptability to the upcoming technology. Nice. Knowledge on multiple subjects. Complex problem solving, analytical and critical thinking and problem solving. Great. So I'm getting a lot of information, a lot of responses here. Great. So yeah, so these are 10 top 10 according to Forbes 2020 list. Creativity, emotional intelligence, analytical or critical thinking, active learning with a growth mindset, judgment and decision making, interpersonal communication skills, leadership, diversity and cultural intelligence, technology, embracing changes. Fine. So every time we get, the similar list, which is saying that you should have good communication skills, interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, critical thinking. We are only talking about what is required as competencies. Rather, focus should be on appetite. So what do we see in this bottle? We see that the bottle has some water. Probably the capacity of the bottle is 1 liter. Right now the water is around half a liter. What can we do? More and more can be done that the water can be filled maximum 1 liter. So we are talking about the water in terms of competencies, but all competencies are required. What if those competencies are becoming 2 liter water for me? My capacity is just 1 liter. So where is the requirement to work on? What is that we have to focus on? Is it important to know more and more about what competencies are required? Or can we focus on how the capacity can be increased? How my bottle, which is having 1 liter capacity right now, can increase the capacity to be filled as 2 liter water. So where my appetite is going to be less, eating more will not be possible for me. So probably the kind of food or the kind of information is available is huge, but my capacity of taking that all information into me is not as much. So my focus in today's webinar is more on how we are going to work on this capacity of learning or the appetite for learning. So learning flow will be like this. We'll talk about what is learning. We'll try to define it. Why it is required. Why is the need for continuous learning? What is the need for developing appetite for continuous learning? Know what motivates you for learning. So what are the things which motivate you, which can increase your capacity? Whereas we will talk about learning theories. We'll take some help, some support from the theorist. We'll also try to understand the learning styles, because without knowing that what is that my style in terms of learning, choosing the right platform or choosing the right information becomes difficult for us. So why no appetite? Why so much distraction in terms of learning? How the time planning can help, and tracking your growth in terms of where I am right now in my learning phase, where I can grow in future. How can we do that? What kind of learning support is required from external factors? It's not only about developing from your own side, but what is that is required from external sources? And few tips in terms of developing appetite for learning. This will be the flow for today's webinar. So let's start with the definition. So it's a Cambridge Dictionary definition about learning. The process of getting an understanding of something by studying it or by experiencing it. The two important things here are either you read it from somewhere, you study it from somewhere, or you experience it for learning something new. Let me take the example of emotion. So if we talk about that, as per definition, or what I read from somewhere as definition of emotion, is a strong feeling deriving from one's circumstances, moods, or relationships with others. So what I'm understanding here about emotion, that it is derived, it's a feeling that is derived from your circumstances, your situations, so something happens, or from your moods, or from your relationship with others, or probably from all three of these. So some feeling is derived from your situation or your relationship with others, or the kind of encounter you have, the kind of confrontation you have with someone. That gives a feeling, and that feeling is called emotion. This is by study. This is my definition. Other way of understanding or knowing emotion is that I feel it every day. Fine. So if I'm sitting with somebody, I feel very happy. I feel, very enthusiastic. Whereas if I'm with someone else, I might not be very happy with that person's company. Or take the example of situation. If you are in a party, your mood is completely different. If you are in a situation where you are meeting with some ill person, then probably your mood is not so good. You will not feel so happy. So either you are experiencing it and you are understanding, oh my God, I feel like this if I am with such a person, or if I am in such a certain condition, or else you just read it from the definition and understand that how it takes place. Your feelings are derived from the circumstances, from the moods, and from the relationships. So these are two ways of learning something new. Learning takes place either by studying it from somewhere or by experiencing it from our daily lives. And for whatever reason, we just have to learn continuously. Continuous learning is required, of course, for the survival most, I should say, because you all have given some examples, examples of AI, machine learning, and all that. I think those are becoming somewhere the need for this continuous learning or for sustainable achievements. So what are the needs? These are few needs. I will talk from the research, from the data, but I will also focus on something which is happening right now, which is the current situation and how it is going to, very, very important need for all of us to learn even in this situation. So of course, essential to survive economic and technical disruption. We know that how fast economical and technical disruption is happening. So you have to be with the pace, you have to learn and align yourself with that disruption. There is a research by CBRE report that says that 50% of jobs would be redundant by 2025 due to technological innovation. I'm really not sure that right now in this condition, how all those research we have read earlier are going to, align with that. But this is what they said. In 2025, whatever we are learning right now, whatever we are doing in terms of jobs will be redundant because of technological innovation. And of course, this technological innovation is coming through AI, robotics, offshore requirements, etc. But another very important aspect, again, I'll come back to the health aspect. that David and Mooney, they have their continuous research in terms of how learning, how the ROI of learning should be seen in terms of health development as well. So from their research, from their one research in 2006, they have shown that learning has a very positive impact on health. And I think all of us can relate with this, how happy we feel, how, nice feeling we have when we learn about something new. So we just target, we feel that, okay, this is a new area, this is coming up new. And what if I read about it? So if everybody is talking about artificial intelligence, robotics, what if I do some certification, I get some knowledge about this area, and that feeling of happiness you can realize yourself. Fine. So that is what their research also, and they mainly talk about the ROI part as well. So organizations, what they're spending, individuals, what they're spending on their learning, how it is going to be seen in terms of their health improvement, as well as not only in terms of the growth of organization or growth of their career. Apart from these four needs, I'll talk about two very important needs which has arisen now because of this current situation. So all of us know that what is happening right now, people are sitting at home, and a huge impact on economy can be seen because of all this, whatever is happening right now, the lockdown, work is slow, it's a slowdown, lockdown. So because of that, probably, and the reports are saying so, that we may have to see some kind of recession even after this, after 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, whatever period of time this goes on. So if so happens, if recession comes after this situation, what will happen? We all know what happens generally. Downsizing takes place. So what is my responsibility as an individual, that how I'm going to show after this period to my organization that what is my worth for the organization, where I can contribute for my organization, where I can contribute in this situation for my organization, as well as what is that I have to offer to my organization, how I can save my place in my company. That also becomes a need for me in terms of learning. So if recession takes place, if such situations come, how are you going to show your worth to your organization? And another thing, current situation has actually proved the importance of technology. So we were talking about it, that of course technological innovations can may make your job redundant, and AI may take, I think for last few months, whatever seminars or conferences I have attended, I've seen that people were only talking about how AI, robotics are going to take your job. So of course that was the scenario, but right now technology has proved itself. Whatever work we are able to do right now, we are able to do only through technology. So the importance of technology has already seen by the organizations, by the enterprises. So if you're not aligned with technology, if you say, no, I'm not a person of technology, I cannot learn from technology, I cannot be aligned with it, then you can see about your survival. So even this situation has created this need for all of us, that we have to, and once we come back to our normal lives, to our routine jobs, we have to prove that what is that new we have learned. So taking new certifications, learning something new, you just can't go back and say that I was just listening news channels all the time about Corona. You also have to show that what you have developed in terms of being useful for your organization. So even for that reason, I think that learning is very, very important right now, even in this situation. In platforms, we know. So right now, classroom platforms cannot be used. We know that technology is the only source which is going to help us. So these two, I thought, are very, very important needs becoming right now. So how we are going to develop appetite and how we can focus on developing appetite for continuous learning. My webinar today is focusing on these 4 areas. Let's find out what is your motivation in terms of learning. Also check that what is your learning style and how learning style is important to be aligned with your learning choices. Time planning, because a lot of time we are confused what should be the method. Is it the right time for learning or not? Am I going to use this, what I'm learning or not? So with all those, how I can go with the right time planning. And as I said, support system in terms of the external environment. So if all 3 are my focus, I also need some kind of support from the external environment, from my organization, from my colleagues, from my trainers. And so we will focus on these 4. So till here, anybody has any question or any comments? You can write in your chat box. Anything about what I have talked till now? Okay, so let's move on. Yeah, so for knowing that what motivates us for learning, let's talk about the 4 theories. I'm covering here 4 theories of learning. And all the theories are mainly concentrating on the stimulus and the response aspect. So we know that we need some kind of push, some kind of force which attracts us to get motivated to do something. So even same applies on learning. When you need to learn something new, what is that pushing you in terms of entering into this learning? So 4 theories which I'm going to talk about are behaviorism, connectivism, constructivism, and connectivism. Cognitivism, constructivism, and connectivism. So what is behaviorism? Behaviorism is the oldest theory in terms of human learning that mainly concentrated on 2 aspects, which are one is repetition and the other one is reinforcement. So I'll not talk much about, who are the theorists and all. The Pavlov and B. Skinner, we feel those 2 are the people who contributed more in this behaviorism theory. And theory mainly focuses on that how behavior can be changed. So new learning can be infused in human beings by 2 methods. One is the repetition, that is Pavlov's thought that if you do something again and again, you learn that. And reinforcement is mainly about that if people are reinforced positively or negatively to learn something new, they learn. So if we talk about repetition, a very common scenario, we see that a mother to a toddler continuously says that, where is the nose, where are the ears? Fine. So we try that if you say that again and again, the learner will get to know that this is the nose, or these are the ears and all. The same thing we even applied in terms of the on-the-job process. So on the job, you are allowed to work on the same platform continuously, especially if you talk about the operational aspects, where people are put on the machineries and they handle the same kind of work continuously. and that repeated nature of their work make them expert in the work. Reinforcement is again used in the organizations. If you see through promotions, increments, so these are kind of reinforcement which helps you learning something new. So you know that if you are not going to learn new technology, your promotion might not take place. And if you see it negatively, if you see it positively, you know that if positive reinforcement is there, you know that if I complete this certification, I'll be considered for promotion, or I'll be considered for increment next year. So these are the kind of reinforcement organizations use in terms of enforcing learning or making them learn something new. So behaviorism was focusing on repetition and reinforcement. Cognitivism actually tried to criticize behaviorism theories and said that people are not programmed animals. So it's not that you just, ask them to do something and again and then they learn, or you just push them through reinforcement and then they learn. So they have their own thinking process. And here in cognitivism, what they focus, they said that we have brain, and the brain is called the black box in cognitivism theory. So human beings have brain, they process every information. So every stimulus they get, the kind of push they are getting for something, they analyze that situation, they analyze that information basically based on their prior experiences. So cognitive or cognitivism mainly focuses on your prior experiences or knowledges which you have taken or learned in your early childhood age. So if you get some kind of situation, you always try to apply what you have seen since your childhood is being applied by you or by your family members. And accordingly you respond. So if I take example here, that if A and B, two people are there, one person thinks, Mr. A thinks that anger is the way or the right way of getting the work done. And this is how Mr. A has seen since his childhood, that if his mother or his father wanted to get the work done, they were using scoldings or anger. Probably Mr. B has seen the different situation where he was asked nicely, politely by the parents while he was asked to do something new. So with this, whenever I need to, or whenever Mr. A and Mr. B, they need to get the work done from others, probably they will use the same technique which they thought can be used in their childhood. So that creates a kind of learning in your mind, that how the tactics or techniques or strategies can be used, but it is coming from your previous knowledge or from your experiences. The difference between constructivism and cognitivism is that I think it's one step ahead than the cognitivism. What do they say? And this theory says that, of course, the brain is used, the learner's mind is used to process the information, but it's not only your prior experience or your past experiences or past knowledge which is processing this information now. You are even taking the current scenarios in your understanding. Current scenarios probably happen with you, or not always with you. Probably others are using that and you learn from that. So if I take the same example of using anger for getting the work done, with the time you understood that in some situations it does not work, and everybody is not going to obey you or going to do the work if you ask them to do it with anger or with scoldings. So you have seen it that others, when they are using other techniques, they are asking them to do it politely, or Mr. A may learn from Mr. B with the time that how Mr. B is not using anger and is still able to get the work done. So what happens here, you rebuild your information or your learning. So the reconstruction happens. You construct over your prior knowledge or prior information. So that's how it takes place. The learning takes place in terms of constructivism theory. The last one is connectivism, and I think this is the digital age learning, the current age learning, how we all learn. We all nowadays learn by connecting with the networks or being part of the networks. So we all look for the blogs, we all look for the social media, we all look for the books, the websites, experts, trainers. So we try to connect all the availabilities in terms of learning something new. So what happens, your interest enforces you here to connect with the people or with the platforms which are going to add on into your learnings. I think all of us have these now. We all become part of some group on Facebook, on Twitter, on WhatsApp. If I take my example here, if I have an interest in fitness and food or health and food, so what I'll do, I will even go to Instagram or to Facebook and search for the similar groups or the groups who are working towards that. So I'll be more connected with the kind of groups like Sattvic movement or natural lifestyle, or even if I want to follow some film stars, then also I will see, okay, who are the film stars who are working towards health and food and fitness. So if again I take my example, I will look into Shilpa Shetty's profile all the time, that what she is doing in terms of eating healthy or in terms of fitness. Now even in current times when all of us are sitting at home, what is that she is doing. So what we try to do through connectivism, we connect to different networks and try to learn as our interest is. So what all these theories are trying to say, that people may have different push. You might be a person who can learn through repetition. You might be a person who should be given a push of reinforcement. You are a person who is processing information from your prior experiences. You are a person who is still learning from current situations, your social environments, what others are doing, how others are doing things. You're now even connecting through digital age, or you are trying to learn through connections from through your networks. And I think no theory works in isolation. All of them work together. So time to time, you get different kind of pushes, you get different kind of stimuli in terms of learning something new. But with this motivation, the another aspect which is more important is knowing about your learning style. What do we mean by learning style? So it's basically the preferences of absorbing, processing, comprehending, and retaining information. So if I learn something, or I am able to, quickly catch something, what is the source I'm using? Am I a person who reads and absorb whatever is the information given? I'm able to process this information in my brain nicely, or better if I read it I'm able to comprehend information if I'm reading it, or I'm able to retain this information. The information is with me for longer period of time. I can memorize it for longer period of time if I'm reading it. And so what is that? My style will be in terms of absorbing, processing, making meaning out of it, and keeping it with me for longer period of time in terms of learning. So here I have two models. So before getting into the models, before talking about the learning style, I'll again just wait for some time and ask everyone if they have any question regarding the theories. Participants, if anybody is interested to ask anything about theories, 4 theories which we have just talked about. Anyone? No questions? Okay, so we can move to the next topic, that is the learning style. So in learning style, I'm going to talk about 2 models here. One is VARG, and very famous model of learning, and the other one will be the Cobb's learning style model. Fine. So VARG, as the name suggests, it's about visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic style. So as I said, somebody who is more observant, more in terms of comprehending the information, more in terms of processing the information, more in terms of retaining the information by seeing it, is a visual learner. Somebody who hears and able to keep it, able to learn it easily. Other person who is who finds that reading something or writing about something makes that person learn more. And kinesthetic are the people who believe in doing and learning. So until you feel that work, you are not so comfortable with the concept. You believe that if I do it, then I learn it. And on the job concept itself is coming from there. You allow apprentice or internship where people go, they do work, and then they learn. So learning by doing is more important for them. But yes, everybody has their different style in terms of learning. I'll give one example here. I remember, I think it's few years back. My daughter was of 7 at that time. So once she came with me to my college, and then after 1 month or so, my new trimester started. And then she asked me that, Mama, you started your classes? I said, yeah, it is started. So which classroom you are going into? I said, what do you mean by that? So I'm going to a classroom which is on my floor. It's an A building or something I told her. And she said, oh, is it the classroom of Adam Smith? And I was a little surprised because I never noticed that the classroom name is Adam Smith. But the classroom's name was Adam Smith. And so we have different classrooms and with different names. So Peter Drucker, Adam Smith, all the management gurus' name are given to the classrooms. So she went there and she read, she saw the picture of Adam Smith and a few description was written about him. And she gave me all that information. So this is the room number and this is what the person does. He's an economist and all that she told me. So what it reflects that some people, if they visualize something, if they see something, they keep it for a longer period of time. And I have a, practical realization now of this. I have seen that if I just listen to something, I am not able to understand it fully until I read it, until I see it myself or I read it myself. If somebody is just talking and I'm listening, I'm not able to retain my concentration or my attention to that. So this way we all have different learning styles. So what I am going to choose tomorrow for my learning should be aligned with what I am easy or I'm comfortable in terms of learning. The another model, which is Cobb's experiential learning model, and his focus, of course, was more on experiential side, as you can see even with the title. What Cobb's model suggested, so he was talking about two things in his model. One is about the stages, so different stages in the learning cycle, and with that 4 different styles of learning. So if you see in slide, the concrete experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, active experimentation. These are 4 different stages of learning, but your learning style plays a role while you are in these stages. So the 4 style Cobb's talked about are diverging, assimilating, converging, and accommodating. So what he is trying to say with that people have different learning styles, and when they are in that particular stage of learning, how do they react, or how do learning takes place for them? So concrete experience is mainly about feeling something, something which you are experiencing in terms of the feeling. Diverging learning style, the person who is more in terms of diverging learning style is a person who believes in collecting information from different sources and then analyzing that information. But he will see all the aspects from different sources, but his feeling aspect or his feeling nature will impact more in terms of his judgment. So he will not learn by doing, he will not learn by experiencing it in terms of doing it, and in terms of active experimenting. He is more learning it through his feelings. Such kind of, like if you take the example of people who are in consulting, they themselves really don't do what they are suggesting others to do. But they have collected the information about it, and they are more in terms of their gut feeling. They believe that this is how it's going to work. So if you use this, it's going to work for you. They are more into this mode. So actually people who are more into advising, more into consulting, more in terms of giving feedbacks to others, they are of diverging learning style people. The next was the assimilating style people with the reflective observation. So concrete experience is just about the feelings, but reflective observation, you get into the situation, see it, not exactly playing your role into the situation, but you just see what is happening, your observation, and you are even reflecting on your observations. You're trying to get some meaning out of it. So people who are of assimilating, they observe, but as well as they think that what can be the practical solutions. So they just don't believe in their gut feelings. They are more into practical solutions as well. So they'll not only advise you, they will see that how it can be done from the theory's point of view. but their practical solutions are not practically, they don't know whether those are practically doable or not, but those are more theory based. Those are not gut feeling based, but those are based on on the theories. So they are the people who read more and who are more into lecturing kind of. So you can take the example of professors and teachers who are more into theory learning. Abstract conceptualization, which brings you to the thinking. So now you are not in the feeling mode, you are more into the thinking mode. You are more logical rather. So people who are of converging style, they are more logical. They get the practical ways of doing things, but they as well as do it. Fine. So they feel that let's see how it can be done in a practical way. So they are not completely doing themselves, but they make others understand that how it will be if it is done in a particular way. So if you see the people who are in the R&D, research and development, so they don't do it in front, but they try that how it can be done. So the actual implementation will not be taken place or will not be done by them, but they see that how it can be done, at least in their labs they see. Fine. So these are the people who are logical and they believe that things can be done. The last one is accommodating. Accommodating is again, it's more about active experimentation. So you get into the situation, you do it. And then your learning is again by doing it, but with the feelings. So they are, when you enter into accommodating stage or you are accommodating style of person, you will see that your feelings are again dominating you more. So feeling not only in terms of seeing the situation, but feelings with doing something. So I'll give you one example here, which will connect all four. So if you're a manager and you give a task to your subordinate or a team member saying that you have to finish it by tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, and then your subordinate or your team member says that it is not possible for me to complete it by 10 o'clock tomorrow. How do you see it if you are a diverging person? You feel that probably there is something wrong. The person is person is facing some problem, and that is the reason he is saying that he cannot do that. You will not be able to get into the situation, but you will assume because of information you get. So you're more into watching this from the outside. But if you enter into the converging mode, assimilating mode, what you try to do that, okay, I have to find out the reasons behind it. If somebody is not ready to complete it by 10 o'clock tomorrow, what can be the reasons? And your logic mind also starts working. Is it that this person gives similar kind of reasons all the time? Or is he a person who is not able to complete the task in the given deadlines? Or is it the work is so complicated that cannot be done easily? Fine. So you start thinking from the build-up theories. If you're a converging style person or somebody who is of converging style person, he will try to see the logical solutions for it. So, okay, fine. If this person cannot do it, is it I have to find out someone else to complete the task because I have to complete it by 10 o'clock tomorrow. We have to give it to the client by 10 o'clock tomorrow. So rather than focusing on more why the person is not doing, your focus will be more on how it can be done through some other source. So that happens in converging. If you're an accommodating person, you will rather thinking about all that, you start doing job yourself. You feel that, okay, the task is very important, and the only way of saving this project or saving this team or saving this, saving my job right now is that I should finish it myself. So they are more, they play more with their feelings, and they believe in doing themselves. So this is about COP6 learning styles. Any questions here? Quickly, if we can take. Anyone has any question? Yeah? No? Okay, so so we are done with the motivations and the learning styles. So how your learning styles are helping you in terms of choosing the right method of learning. That's where the learning style plays a role. But there is one TED talk about by Tessia. I can share the link of that. She talks about that, learning styles are myth. Rather than thinking about one particular learning style, you can always take them all into consideration. People learn when they have all kind of learning style. It's not completely, only one type of learning style which makes you learn. So that's a different way of thinking. I'll share that link in chat box. All of you can listen to even that TED talk. I think I get one or two chat. Yeah, Vishal, go ahead. You can type your question. Yeah. So you, Vishal is asking that diverging and accommodating are related to feelings. Yeah, so you are more into, and these people who are having these styles, diverging and accommodating, they are more of feeling people. So I'll not get into the personality types and all, but people who are more into feelings, into guts, they go more of diverging and accommodating style. But one is only about observing, observing what is happening around, and other is more doing and then using your feelings. Okay, so is it fine, Vishal? Okay, thank you. So yeah, so why no appetite? And this is coming from some Harvard research, that what is that your learning get distracted, why you are not able to focus on the learning, what is being taught you or what is happening around you, and what is shown you as in terms of your learning requirement, why you're not able to take it. So why no appetite, why the capacity is not increased? Sometimes the reason is wrong timing. So what is being taught or what is being focused right now in terms of making you learn, is it really required right now for you? That pushes you for learning and for not learning. So what happens that you always know, and as I said, we learn for survival. So you know that your survival is looking for this learning or not. And if you think that this is something which I can manage without, your interest in that learning will not be that much at that period of time. Same with the wrong things. So these things are applicable for me, for my job, for my survival or not. How I'm going to apply it. What if it is not applied for longer period of time? And then research also says that 75% learnings we forget after a period of time because we don't apply them. So if for all three, I'll take one example here. If suppose you are working with an organization which is hardly using any technology, and they ask you to go for automated learnings, and you learn how our automated platforms are used for doing operational jobs, operational work and all, and the use of technology in your organization is not really sound, then that one thing is you're not clear that how you're going to use it in your organization. So is it the right time for using it, because still the organization is not very technology friendly? Is it the right thing, or else some other methods can be found to do this right now? Am I going to apply it for recent times? So that these all are going to distract your learning somewhere. You are not able to decide whether you should really learn what you're learning right now or not. So here I'll talk about this, technological disruption. So what is happening right now, and what is the technological disruption we are seeing for a few years. So we know that whatever it is, we always say that, this is not going to work for a longer period of time. So if you're working on this platform right now, you are not sure whether this will be used after 2 months, or, after 3 months, or after 1 year or so. So you get this distraction somewhere that what will be the use if I learn it, and what if this is not going to be used. All of you must have experienced in terms of buying a mobile phone. You see that the new model has come in the market. You want to buy it, but somewhere you see that, every month you get a new model. So you're not even sure that this model, you may get something better next month or next to next month, whether I should go for this right now, or I should wait for some more time and then buy another one, which is coming up with more technological things. So this confusion is somewhere making me lose my appetite, or a kind of distraction in terms of my learning. How that can be aligned? Here I'll talk about Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy generally we use in terms of evaluation of learning, but individuals can also use it for their time planning, or for their tracking their growth, what they are learning. So it goes on 6 steps, as we see: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. As the names also suggest, remembering is something about, just knowing about something, or trying to recollect from the given definition. So as in learning definition, we saw that, you can learn by studying, or you can learn by experiencing it. So remembering is more about learning by studying it from reading. So suppose learning some formula by reading. So that comes under remembering. If you talk about understanding, when you start comprehending the information, so you remember something by reading it from somewhere, but when you start comprehending that what can be the impact, or what all kind of things are around it. So okay, let me come up with one example. I think that will be a better way of putting it. So if I take the example of poem. Fine. So what is poem? So poem is the expression of feeling by particular attention or diction. That is the definition of poem. So a poem is what through which you express your feelings, but put it in a diction. That is just a remembering part. You get to know that what is poem. But your understanding part starts when you start knowing more about it. You know that, there are different kinds of poems. You have blank verses, you have rhyme poetry, you have free verses, where no rhymes work. You have stanzas in poem, you have meters in poem, you have couplets, which are 2 lines poem are called couplets. So all that information you start collecting about poem, then you reach to the understanding level. Your understanding even goes that how the romantic poems can be there, patriotic poems can be there, and you understand that those can be used, those can be applied. The romantic poem can be applied when you are you are in love with somebody, and the poetic poems the patriotic poems can be used when you are showing your affection for your country. So you are able to apply it, rather understanding the application of it, not exactly applying, but you are able to understand the application of that learning. And the analysis part comes, your learning reaches to that part where you now know that what will be the impact of using it. So where, if I'm using love poem, what will happen? If I'm using patriotic, what will happen? I'm able to analyze the situation. If I am proposing my girlfriend and I'm using patriotic poem, what can happen? Fine. So that analysis you are able to do. And then you see that, the impact can be wrong. Evaluating is like in terms of how much it can be. So analyzing was just telling you that the impact can be there, that can be good or bad. But now in the evaluation, you are able to calculate the risks. You're able to understand that, your girlfriend even may leave you if you are using patriotic poem rather than using a love or romantic poem. Fine. So, but the highest achievement in this tracking is creating. So after knowing all this and so much about poems, are you able to write a poem yourself? That is a creating situation, creating level of Bloom's taxonomy. So what happens through this, we are also able to track if I have started learning something, where is my learning curve right now, where I have reached. If I'm starting from remembering, how much time I'm going to take to reach to creating. Am I really needed to go to the creating stage in every learning? Or is it fine if I only reach to apply or analysis or evaluating stage? So that's how I'm able to track my growth, or I'm able to plan my time for my learning. Is that fine? So we have less time left with us. So only 2 more points to cover. The support system, as I said, this is something which we are looking from the external world. It is not something which is, whereas the all other aspects were about you, how you're going to do it with your learning. The support system is more about the external environment. So learning culture, what kind of learning culture you get. This is coming this is coming from another Harvard article. The learning culture is required for more learning. So to motivate people for more learning, what kind of culture your organization has? Are they given more opportunities in terms of learning? Are they encouraged to go for new certifications or education programs, or you can get sabbatical and learn something? So are these kind of facilities available in your organization, in your family? or not. So that learning culture impacts a lot. You have to create the motivation, and all the time it can be done by showing the benefits. So it is one research that says that your learning can take place, or the people can be more motivated for learning if they are shown the advantages or the benefits of learning rather than showing the challenges in learning. So if I take example of my students, in HR, generally the trend is that they run away from the numbers. They always they try to escape from the numbers. They feel that numbers are not so important for HR people. You want to make your career in HR, it's okay to be away from numbers. But if it is shown to them, companies are coming, placement is talking to them, that how analytical roles are being important in HR, how they are more in terms of getting importance or being paid as job. So rather than saying that analytics is something which you have to be comfortable with numbers, you have to understand the coding, decoding, and basic information about maths and numbers and all. If they are shown that what is the greener side of that, so learning will take place. People will be more interested in learning. Growth opportunities, of course, that if I'm learning, what is that I'll be given as reward. So somewhere reinforcement theory works here, but you want to see that what will be the benefit of this. If you are attending this webinar today, what is that you are taking with yourself after this webinar? Is it going to add into your resume? It is going to be add into your profile. It's going to add into your knowledge more. What is that you're going to get out of it? That becomes a very good support system. And the most important thing is feedback. So what I'm learning, I'm trying to track my growth, but if I get some feedback from outside that makes you, on a different level of learning, how it takes place. Suppose what happens, a learner, we are always scared of starting something new with the thought that, whether we will be appreciated or not, or whether it's going to be seen. I don't want to be seen as new learner anytime. If you are already expert in something, you are always scared to enter into a new world. You feel that what people will think about that you. I'll give you one example here, that I don't want to learn Telugu. I'm not able to learn Telugu. Why it is so? If we can learn other languages, why it is not that you are dealing with a language day and night, you see that, but still you are not comfortable. So that new learner phobia is always there with us. We always feel that if I'm going to talk in front of others will make fun of me, others will feel that my pronunciation is not correct, and this grammar mistakes can be there. So that stops every new learner. In that period of time, if you get the right feedback, the positive feedback, that encourages you a lot. So there is a lot of importance of feedback in your learning. So quickly, whatever I have just presented, from all that, if you can get it, that what are the tips you take for developing your appetite for learning, that you have to understand your learning style. You see that what is the style makes you more comfortable in terms of learning something new, and then align the choices of your resources with your learning style. So what I choose, is it aligned? So probably completely you're not stick to one learning style. You are not completely a visual or auditor or reader or writer or kinesthetic, but you can be a mix of all, but still there will be some dominant aspect in terms of your learning style. So see that and choose the right resource. Believe in experiential learning, because most of the time it's not only learning through some source, but your experiences also makes you learn. Set learning outcomes and goals for learning. So without setting that goal, that where I want to reach, so even you're tracking growth, you will not be able to decide, you will not be able to take the right timings and right way of learning that if you have not decided what is that you want to see as outcome. What will happen? Am I going to get growth in my life because of this learning? Am I really going to get my promotion because of learning? Am I going to get a right job because of this learning? If that is not set for you, it becomes little difficult to decide what you should learn, what you should not. Set aside dedicated time for learning and minimize interruptions. So you have to, from your lifestyle, you have to decide that where you want to get the time out for your learning. Am I choosing some months in the year? Am I choosing some days in the month? Am I choosing some hours in a day which are helping me, or which are becoming part or becoming the way of my new learning? Develop a learning community. That connectivism, everywhere it is seen now, you try to find out your networks, your people who are learning your kind of stuff. So try to network more, try to understand, try to learn about how the learning communities can be developed for your area. Technology is being a big support, and I think in the starting itself I gave two very important points, that now technology is really going to take a big place in terms of learning. After seeing all this, after understanding that technology is not going to get the virus which we can get if we go out of house, so how now technology is really going to be a big supplement for your learning. Track your progress, where I am, where I want to be, and how I'm taking one step every time. And the good feedback from the right people, the positive feedback, is very, very, very important for developing your appetite for learning. So I think I'm done with that. You can ask questions, and even Namita, if you want to take over, if you want to take questions from others, if you want.
Yeah, sure. Sure, Prem. Thank you very much. Anybody, if somebody wants to ask questions, so they can write down the chat box. I guess there is a question.
Okay, so the question is, focusing is a challenge for me. Yeah, so what do you mean by focusing here? Shavlan, can you please clarify what do you want to say by saying focusing is a challenge for me? Yeah, please. Okay, so you're trying to say if you choose something to learn, then a lot of distractions take place, and that is affecting your learning. So how it can be improved? Yeah. So the main problem comes when we are not clear that why we are learning this. Fine, if the motivation is clear, if the alignment of, so what is your learning style? I'll leave two links here. One will be for knowing your learning style, and the other one will be for the TED Talk, if all of you want to see. Fine, so your distraction will automatically be less. I will not say that will not be there at all, but that will be less if the right method is being chosen by you. So what is that can make you more attentive? What is that can take your more attention in terms of learning? That will increase your focus, I believe. Yeah, Shabran? Any other question? Yes, please. I am leaving one link here. With the help of this, you can understand your learning style, as well as I will also share this link of YouTube video, which will make you understand that styles work, but not in isolation. Okay, so one more question. I feel that what I learn, I forget it quickly. So what can I do apart from practicing that? So as I said, we forget 75% of our learning if it is not usable. So if it is not applied, if we are not using it in practice, we forget. That's the actually research. So the only way is how you apply that. So whatever you are learning, is it applicable or not? That makes your learning more. Yeah, I shared it with all the panelists. The learning style questionnaire and the YouTube link, both I have shared with everyone. I hope everybody got it. Yeah, okay. Is it? But Namita, can you please see that? Because I shared with everyone.
Yeah, just a sec. Let me share those links.
Yeah, it is showing to all panelists.
Just a sec. I'm sharing. So now I guess everyone can see that link.
Okay. So
yes.
Okay. Fine. Yeah. So anything else? So happy learning and thank you guys. Thank you all. You have taken time out. I'll just finish with last statement that the time is tough. It's really difficult time for all of us, but just keep your zeal up in terms of learning, because learning, one thing is, it is proven that it's going to even impact your health. So you will be more healthier if you, okay, we have some chats here. 1 second. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Shivran. Thank you, Shiv. Yeah. Thank you all. I hope this was useful for all of you. And please keep learning, because especially in this time, I am getting some jokes where people say, कोरोना से डर नहीं लगता, वेबिनार्स से लगता है. So don't get scared of webinars, please. Try to learn as much as possible. You're getting a lot of platforms in terms of free resources available for learning. Don't hide yourself, don't shy away. Please go and learn as much as possible, because I said once the time will over, the situation will over, you have to show what have you earned, what have you added into your profile after this, after this all happened with all of us. Fine. So all the best. I congratulate you all again for taking the time out and being a true learner. Thank you. And Namita, you have something to say? Do we have one more thing in chat? Stay safe. Thank you. Thanks a lot. You too, please.
Hi.
All of you stay safe, stay home.
So thank you everyone for attending this webinar, and thank you very much Poonam for giving us your valuable time and for such a knowledgeable session. So I hope everyone found this webinar interesting. So if you want to learn and explore more, you can follow us on our Eisenbridge YouTube channel. And apart from that, if somebody wants to explore on our other courses, they can visit our website and post your query regarding webinar and for any other course on sales@eisenbridge.com. So as of now, it's time to say bye. Good day. Stay safe. Stay home. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you, Namita. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay home. Have a